I don't know when they're starting. I think we're getting close. But yeah, sorry if this is boring so far. But I could just leave and come back on after once it's starting. It looks like they're getting close to being ready. That looked like 10 minutes. What's he saying? 10 minutes? Look like they just signaled 10 minutes. Should I just leave it going for now and then, or should I leave and come back? right? The jams are there to help out a little bit. The jams are there to help a little bit while we're waiting. Any minute here, guys. We're almost there. It's almost time. It's almost time. Go Team Vape! Go Team Vape! And definitely, like Dan said, make sure you guys support the Jericho Hotel, right? I don't know why these guys brought the Jericho. Maybe they're likely doing other bills. There's other things going on. So this Jericho is probably just by chance that they're at the vape one too. Oh, you guys are funny.
I'm standing outside the window. 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 I'm standing outside waiting for you. You were always taking time, baby, playing it through. I was calling out your name with my eyes on the
hippest elevator in town. I'm sorry, guys. I have no idea when this starts. Here you go, James. This is for you, buddy. Here we go, guys. It's beginning.
To lead us in prayer, please welcome our friends, Pastors Diane and Ray Mellegrain of North Shore Assembly of God.
Can you guys hear that okay?
It's a wonderful time to remember God leads us in all we do in life.
Amen. We all bow our heads in prayer, please. Heavenly Father, we thank you for gathering us here tonight. Thank you for your many and abundant blessings. Scriptures tell us in the book of Romans, chapter 13, that we are to subject ourselves to the governing authorities, and that there is no authority except the authority that God has established. Therefore, tonight I pray for our town supervisor, Joseph Saladino, and for all the council officers here tonight. I ask that you, Lord, would be gracious and grant them wisdom in deciding the many issues of this meeting tonight. I ask that you give them a keen sense.
It's a little quiet,
of
isn't it?
welfare and true needs of our people, and a keen thirst for justice and righteousness. Give them the ability to work together in harmony, even when there is honest disagreement. I pray for the agenda set before them tonight. Please give an assurance of what would please you, Almighty God, and what would benefit those who live and work in the beautiful township of Oyster Bay. I pray according to John 3:16 in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you again to our pastors and good friends, Diane and Ray Mellegrain. If you please remain standing, please welcome Randy Carroll of the Town of Oyster Bay's Division of Veteran Services to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Randy was a Specialist 5 and E5 in the United States Army. He was assigned to Vietnam from May 1967 to May 1968. Thank you, Randy, for taking the time to be with us this evening. Thank you to you and to all our veterans for all the sacrifices of our veterans. And services in the town of Oyster Bay to assist veterans and their families on a day-to-day, and we appreciate that. Please join me in a moment of silence for our men and women in the United States Armed Forces serving here in the homeland and abroad, and a recognition of the men and women in law enforcement, all of our first responders. Thank you. Please be seated. The clerk will now poll the board. Clerk, would you mind polling the board, please?
Supervisor.
Present.
Councilman Muscarella.
Here.
Councilman McEnroe.
Present.
Councilwoman Johnson.
Here.
Councilman Imbrodo.
Present.
Councilman Hand.
Here.
And Councilman Labriola.
Here. The clerk will now call the first hearing.
To consider the application from the Plainview Water District for the issuance of serial bonds for improvements to the said water district.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Supervisor Saladino, honorable members of the town board. My name is Mike Ingham. I am senior partner of the firm of Carmen, Callahan Ingham, 266 Main Street, Farmingdale, New York. I am general counsel to the Plainview Water District and will be the principal presenter on this bond petition. With us here tonight are all three commissioners, Commissioner Mark Lakine behind me, Commissioner Amanda Field, Commissioner Andy Bader. Also with us tonight is the district superintendent, Stephen Moriarty, business manager, Dina Scott. Finally, James Nearing, the district engineer from H2M, should there be any technical questions. Seeing the main event tonight, I'll cut right to the chase. Continuing studies made by the district have indicated that the district requires installation of water treatment systems and related improvements at wells number 4.2 and 4.3 at Plant 4 by virtue of the detection of elevated levels of nitrates and perchlorates in the raw water of each well. The H2M engineering report analyzes recommendations for wellhead treatment at Plant number 4 to reduce the levels of nitrates to below the maximum contaminant level and the perchlorate to below the secondary action level. As set forth in the H2M engineer's report, a detailed description of these improvements and the total estimated cost and maximum cost thereof is $6,388,200. However, the town board should also be apprised that in the fall of 2018, the district was awarded a New York State Water Infrastructure WIA grant of $2,626,200, which will be applied to the total costs of the nitrate chloride treatment facility at Plant number 4. With due acknowledgement of the WIA grant, the total needed to complete Plant 4 project will be $3,762,000. Plant number 4 of the Plainview Water District is located on the south side of Southern Parkway in Plainview. The plant is critical to the district's water supply. Over the last 8 years, it accounted for approximately 14% of the district's total pumpage. From 2010 to 2012, several years ago, the plant accounted for an average of 25% of the district's pumpage, a full 25% of the district's needs. With the increase in contaminant concentrations, utilization of Plant 4 has recently reduced, and it now only accounts for an average of 8% of the district's total pumpage.
Okay, they're talking about something else right now. So, why don't I just? Do you guys want to keep listening? Do you want me to put some tunage on in the background, or what exactly do we want here? Mike, they're trying to. Well, there's new codes, new regulations they want to put in place for vape shops and vape products and hookahs and all that kind of stuff. This is in New York, Long Island.
Ionic separator exchange
No, you haven't missed anything, Dan. They're talking about something un-vape related right now. they're talking about well water and chemicals in the water and all that kind of stuff. So just so you guys don't get too bored, I've got some tunes playing over top.
I've been in your waters. I came from shore. I've never been so close before. It's one
and locations of vape shops and hookah lounges.
Here we go, guys. Here we go. Now they're on it.
Good evening, Supervisor, members of the Town Board. Elizabeth Fawnin, Deputy Town Attorney, Town Attorney's Office. Supervisor, members of the board, as many of you may know, many municipalities on Long Island have been adding provisions to their zoning codes regarding vape shops, hookah lounges, and e-cigarettes as they've become more popular. And the town of Oyster Bay is not alone in suggesting this local law. Under the provisions of this local law, and I believe you all have it in front of you, we will actually be adding definitions of what an electronic cigarette, what a hookah lounge or a vape lounge is, a hookah pipe, smoke shop, and vape shops, so that we actually have definitions in the town zoning code. Most importantly, any new shops would be limited to a light industry zoning classification or an LI classification. They will not be allowed to be located within 1,000 feet of a residence. I want to get it in front of me. I should always pull it before I talk about it. Here it is. There will not be allowed within 1,000-foot radius of the lot line of any lot zoned for residential use, of any school, any park, any playground, any library, church, or other place of worship. Existing locations will be grandfathered in, provided that they have the proper permits and all the proper certifications that are required as of now. The other item that I should note is that any businesses that currently exist, any that are established under this new zoning provision, will be required to have a notice at the point of sale indicating that the health consequences of the use of such products. These provisions will also apply to businesses that have, quote, a significant or substantial portion of their premises devoted to the sale of such items of merchandise, and that's defined as 40%, whether it's 40% of the gross floor area, 40% of the gross income, then these provisions will be applicable.
Now,
Go ahead.
For the audience, could you describe what a light industrial area would be?
Well, I do have the Commissioner of P&D with me, so I'm going to ask Commissioner Macaron to get up and speak about that, because she was involved.
Sorry,
Good evening, Commissioner Elizabeth Macaron, Planning and Development. So your question, Councilman, was?
For the audience, what would be a light industrial area? What would classify? What?
Typically, the types of uses that are in a light industrial area would be warehouse, distribution, manufacturing type uses, storage, and so forth. So we're taking it, or we're classifying it that that's where it would be permitted. And again, but they have to meet the 1,000-foot radius. So if it's abutting a residential area, or a church, they have to be within those, within that distance.
I think it's a great idea and a great use for that area.
Yes, and we're taking it out of the downtowns and, the neighborhood businesses and the general businesses, which are the commercial zones, which are more prevalent in the town, and putting them, we're still allowing them, but they're going to be in the industrial zones.
Thank you.
Okay.
I don't see any affirmative statement that existing locations will be grandfathered in. How do the existing business owners know that they're going to be okay if it's not specifically stated?
It's typically, any of our uses. There's a different section of 246, Chapter 246, that talks about non-conforming uses. So again, as long as they have permits
Because
or
we've
working
received
towards the
letters
CO,
from
right.
existing
Right, they would
operators
be,
that
they would be
they should feel
grandfathered.
comfortable
Right.
in their business. Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Commissioner, I have a question. Commissioner, before you sit. In my mind, light industrial zones are semi-rare in the town of Oyster Bay. and it's very restrictive ordinance here, outlawing basically preventing something that is considered to be legal in our state. And I'm just wondering what your thinking is, or maybe what the intent, the legislative intent is in not permitting it in a general business zone, out of the neighborhood business, but in a general business zone where it's much more intensive use of businesses, as opposed to putting it into light industrial zones and, you know, really limiting the options of people who want to go into this business.
Right, well, if you look at the overall zoning map of the town of Oyster Bay, we do have light industrial zones throughout each of the hamlets, whether it's here in Oyster Bay, Syosset, Hicksville, and so forth. And a lot of the general business zones do affect residential areas. So the key thing that we looked at was trying to locate it in a position, in a zone where the shops can still function. They do not need a special use permit from the town board or the zoning board of appeals. They would be a permitted use in that light industrial zone, but to keep it away from the, you know, the younger generations who may be more prevalent in trying vaping, the e-cigarettes and so forth. So that's why we put in the 1,000-foot radius from parks, places of worship, schools, playgrounds, and so forth.
I would agree with, you know, the 1,000-foot restriction away from where young people tend to be. But I still think it's overly restrictive in keeping it only in light industrial areas, when in fact this is a legal activity. It's legal to vape. A lot of people find it to be an alternative to smoking cigarettes and cigars, et cetera. People, I've heard stories, I've had correspondence from residents who are telling me that it basically has changed their life, that they were able to finally break the habit. So now we're going to say that all of these places of business, all new places of business, will have to be located in this very limited zone, light industrial, which, by the way, I'm not sure in terms of what the market rate is for a light industrial per square foot for, as opposed to a general business zone per square foot. I don't know how that impacts their business. These are usually small mom and pop shops, and I'm not sure if, I mean, I'm not an expert in commercial real estate, but I really would like us to understand what the impact will be upon our small businesses. Even businesses that currently exist might want to expand and open 2 shops. Their main focus may not be vaping. It may be, as you say, up to 40%,
Right.
but they're now
Yeah, I like
going to
this guy.
fall
I
in
like
the
this
category
guy.
of this new law. So I would just like us to consider that before we move forward.
the
I'd
guy
like
on the
my
far right
colleagues
that's
on the board to
speaking.
consider that, that it may be overly restrictive, although the intent is a great intent. I support the concept, and I certainly congratulate my colleague, Lou Imbrodo, for his work and his effort in this regard. But I just think that we're going a little too far, a little too fast.
Absolutely. So we'll take a harder look. The decision is not happening tonight. You'll put it on decision reserves, and we'll go back and address some of your concerns.
Commissioner, I don't know if this is for you or for the town attorney's office, but the last time this draft came before us, there were references to tobacco products and cigarettes, and I'd asked that those be removed so that we could keep the focus solely on the vape products and the e-cigarettes. I noticed that those are still in.
Those are still in with
Yeah.
the 40%. So if it's
I
a
don't
full
think that those are the same thing.
smoke shop,
I think that they should be treated differently. And I
Okay.
think you open a whole can of worms from a regulatory standpoint by having cigarettes included. I don't think they should be in there.
okay. Any other questions?
Amen. Amen.
Any other questions?
Amen to this guy.
Thank you.
These guys are smart.
People to speak, we have plenty.
We have some people who would like to speak on this. We're going to begin with Mary Shannon.
That was amazing. The words that just came out of their mouths were fucking perfect.
Good evening. There's
Like,
a
I'm
time
amazed.
limit
I'm so
for
amazed that that's coming
speakers
from the
on
council.
all of our hearings this evening, and you'll be alerted to that. And we ask that you begin by giving us your name and address, please.
Good evening. I'm Mary Shannon. My address is 1118 Josselson Avenue, Bayshore. I'm speaking on behalf of Eric Kaplan, owner of Vaposaurus in North Massapequa on North Broadway. Sir, we opened in January of 2016 and are members of the Massapequa Chamber of Commerce, supporters of the Nassau County Police Department, and regular contributors to the North Massapequa Fire Department. We are very much a mom-and-pop shop in very close-knit community. Our entire focus has been on adult smoking cessation since the day we opened. Vaping was the method by which I quit smoking after 26 years, my wife after 15 years, and my father after 50 years. Although the products do contain nicotine, vape liquids do not contain the tar nor the myriad of poisons contained in traditional tobacco products. We have participated in helping countless adult smokers rid themselves of cigarettes, cigar, pipe, and dip habits. On a daily basis, we provide products to first responders, office professionals, service providers, members of the medical community, adult men and women at every social and professional level. Additionally, we always verify that the purchaser is of legal age, and we have signage clearly stating that provided by Nassau County. Although I pass no judgment on others, we do not carry any bongs, hookahs, rolling papers, grinders, or any related paraphernalia. We're a vape shop, interested in providing what we consider to be safer alternatives to tobacco. While we agree there is a warranted concern regarding youth vaping, we go out of our way to make sure that we are not participants in the problem. I feel that this law would be discriminatory practice, eliminating small, responsible, independently owned, smoking cessation-focused establishments. Additionally, on a strictly practical note, I've spent decades in project management, most recently servicing a New York City contract. I believe I understand the pressure that you are under to see the needs and the concerns of the constituents and the obligation you feel to see to their best interest. I feel like we are participants in that and not a threat to it. Finally, I hold the lease to the property we occupy, and I am financially responsible for it until its conclusion. I spent 20 years in the workforce in order to be able to finally open my own business, which I believe serves this community. A forced move would likely ruin this business as well as mine and my wife's financial state. I beg you to reconsider these sweeping changes and keep an open mind to the benefits that stores like mine provide. And consider the likely financial destruction of the small business owners and community members that would be left in the wake of such a decision. Although I would have preferred to participate in the public hearing that has been graciously provided, I am the sole proprietor and employee in the shop, and therefore I am unable to attend, and I provide this letter in my place. Thank you for taking the time to read this, and I am truly grateful. Sincerely, Eric Kaplan. Thank you.
Just to address some of the things you mentioned, you heard before that this would not apply to any existing business. You would be grandfathered in.
We have heard that there are issues in the town of Islip. Currently, there is a case against the town of Islip because the grandfathering in process didn't seem to switch over to that. The towns, different towns are selecting different shops to take them out of business. And there is a case going to Supreme Court in the town of Islip. It was said that they would be grandfathered in, but that's not occurring. This is a sweeping change, and, you know, people have...
People are afraid of change, yes.
Well, no, people have invested 20 years and their salary and, you know, their whole life savings into this smoking cessation. It really does save lives.
Sure it does. I'm past that generation. But honestly, I have a lot of faith in Commissioner Macaron and her department. If they say that they're going to be grandfathered in, they'll be grandfathered in.
Why don't we bring the commissioner back up?
And perhaps the town attorney's office could speak to this as well.
And this is a very important point you've brought up, and we appreciate the fact you've brought it up. If you would like to take a seat.
Okay.
We will address those issues that you're bringing up to bring assurances to you and to current business owners.
Okay, I thank you on behalf of Eric Kaplan for letting him have this time to speak to you. It's, he's very passionate about it, and so am I. Thank you so much.
Well, you tell him we said you did a great job.
Thank you.
I'm hoping he's watching you right now.
Thank you.
I'm not fully aware of the
Could you point that toward yourself?
ISLIP legislation. However, I believe in ISLIP, they did a sunset provision in which they did not grandfather the shops. After they passed the ordinance, there was a time limit in which the vape shops in the downtowns or in their commercial business districts would have to move, and I believe that is the subject of the court proceedings. However, that is not the case here.
So let's talk about here. Let's give that short list to everyone that gives the assurances that we're not here to put people out of business.
If you are an existing business with a certificate of occupancy, you are grandfathered.
And that
If you are a existing business that filed for a building permit and obtained a building permit and is in the process of constructing that shop, you are grandfathered. I cannot speak to this particular person's place of business, but I'll be happy to tomorrow to look in and help them and assist them. I don't know whether or not they have a CO or a permit. I'm sure if they've been there for, 20 years, but I can't speak specifically to that address.
So if you stand by, I'm going to now ask our town attorney to come up. Thank you, Commissioner.
Joseph Nocella, Town Attorney. Good evening, everyone.
We have a question, and the public has a question on this legislation. They want to know about the assurances that would, in the actual wording of this legislation, that would allow them to feel a lot more comfortable with the investment that they've made there.
Yes, I actually think Commissioner Macarone stated it quite correctly. The legislation contains provisions to make sure that businesses like that of Mr. Kaplan's are grandfathered in. The town of Oyster Bay does not intend to put anybody who is currently operating lawfully out of business.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Our next speaker will be Spike Babian. Good evening.
My name is Spike Babayan. I am here on behalf of New York State Vapor Association. We represent businesses in this area and in the township of Oyster Bay. I read that bill probably a dozen times, and I don't see any grandfathering exclusions or anything that points to any other piece of legislation that grandfathers in shops that are existing, but I'll take a look at it again and make sure.
It's not zoning law.
Yeah.
Not in this bill.
Okay. Vapor products have the potential to disrupt the 120-year dominance of the cigarette, challenge the field on how the tobacco... Slow down a little bit? Sure. Vapor products have the potential to disrupt the 120-year dominance of the cigarette and challenge the field on how the tobacco pandemic could be reversed if nicotine is decoupled from lethal inhaled smoke. This is a quote from Dr. David Abrams, NYU College of Global Public Health. He's very strongly felt against e-cigarettes for many years in the beginning. And then he started seeing the studies come out, not many, 2 to 3 years, but that's a lot in e-cigarette years. And he saw a lot of studies come out, and it changed his mind. And he spent the last 6 years convincing other people to change their minds because he sees the truth. The advancements like seatbelts, airbags, vaccines, condoms, methadone, PrEP, reduce harm and improve public health. E-cigarettes, we have the same opportunity here to reduce public harm. It's imperative not to ignore that and not to treat these like cigarettes. I agree with you. They shouldn't be lumped in the same category as cigarettes because they're not. They're definitely not. They're very different products. There are studies that show that youth who experiment with e-cigarettes don't go on to smoke cigarettes. Youth who experiment with tobacco cigarettes do go on to usually end up smoking, not usually, but a good percentage of the time, much higher percentage of the time, go on to smoke cigarettes. But you're not restricting where you can buy cigarettes. You can buy cigarettes everywhere. Why? Because that would be a legal difficulty to try and stop people from selling cigarettes next to schools. We'd have to move every 7-Eleven, every gas station, every bodega, every corner store, every deli, everything. But you're going to take the products that have the least harm and move those to a place where they're harder to get. How does that make sense? You wouldn't do that with the nicotine patch and the nicotine gum. You wouldn't say, this helps people quit smoking. Let's take it and move it somewhere where no one can get it. This is not a great idea. This does the opposite of what you're trying to do. E-cigarettes were shown to be literally twice as effective as NRTs, twice as effective as the patch, the gum, the nicotine inhaler, twice as effective in helping people quit smoking. But you're taking the product that's most effective in helping people quit smoking and moving it to a place where people have a hard time getting it, especially people who are disadvantaged, people who are disabled, people who don't have cars, people who don't have enough money to take a Via or a Uber to get to where they need to go to get an e-cigarette because it's often some back road industrial area that costs more to get to.
Just going to slow down a little for our partner.
Sorry, I get excited. Nearly 20% of the shops in Nassau County are here in the town of Oyster Bay. 20% of those shops, of the shops in Nassau County, are either going to be moved or closed. And I suspect that probably the majority of them will close. These shops live paycheck to paycheck. As you heard from about the previous person, the owner of that shop is not here because they're running their shop tonight. And they can't afford to close because if they close, they can't pay their rent. So these shops cannot afford the expense of moving. We don't need ID to buy a bag of Cheetos. We don't need ID to buy a cup of coffee. But all of these things are sold in 7-Eleven and delis and groceries. So are cigarettes and so are vapor products. And youth can access all of these locations. In a store that is a smoke shop or a vapor shop, every customer is ID'd because the only products available in these vape shops are 21 and over products. So every person that comes in is ID'd. Now you're going to leave vapor products in the shops where they don't ID, and you're going to move all the shops that do ID out of town. How does that make any sense? It just doesn't make any sense. You're making it harder for people to access the products to save their lives. It forces businesses who are already struggling with the expenses of state and federal regulations to maintain compliance, to get licenses that New York State's going to require of them very soon, to now spend a huge expense in moving their business. Why? Because they want to help people quit smoking? It's not fair. Thank you.
All right,
Our next speaker will be Michael Shannon.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Council, for having me here. My name is Michael Shannon, and I am the owner of Blackwater Vapor.
Could you please speak up a little bit?
Yeah, no problem.
And give us your full name again and address.
Yeah, Michael Shannon, 1118 Jocelyn Avenue, Bay Shore, New York, 11706. And I own Blackwater Vapor in Sayville, New York, in the town of Islip. I am the man in Supreme Court right now at the town of Islip. I attended a meeting in March 24th of 2016 at the town of Islip when we went over the zoning regulations there, and the county executive, Steve Ballone, at the time, who had no jurisdiction to do so, actually told us that we were going to be grandfathered in. After that, about 3 years and 2 months later, we get a letter in the mail saying you have to leave. We're going to grant you adult uses. They zoned us adult uses in the town of Islip over there. Well, we were zoned with strip clubs and all that stuff. Town of Islip, it's not a strip club, obviously. So they're saying that we have to go. I came here today. I'm afraid that it will happen to other small businesses here. Entrepreneurship is our pinnacle of the United States of America. And it is the American dream to be an entrepreneur. And doing zoning like this is taking away people's dreams to get people to quit smoking. I don't want to take anyone's dreams away. Especially, I don't want to take away a store that's going to get a whole bunch of people to quit smoking. Over the time that I opened my store, we've never sold underage. We're very professional, almost with military precision. We have scanners, and we train lightly in deception as well. We can tell if someone's having a fake ID and whatnot. The scanner does it. They have really good fakes right now coming out of China. We have to train on that as well. So we're highly trained over there. We've checked for compliance multiple times by the Department of Health and Tobacco Enforcement, and it's the shops that are in the industrial areas that are usually the bad actors. The convenience stores and whatnot, all over the place, those are bad actors as well. Yeah, no problem, sorry. So we're not only afraid for the businesses, we're afraid for the consumers. We want more people to quit smoking. And with these businesses moved to industrial districts, less people will quit smoking. More people will smoke. This is a public health crisis that's going on in the United States, not just here. It's all over, 50 statewide. Bans on vaping, bans on flavors, everywhere. And it comes down to, the children. And everyone's like, you gotta save the kids. Everyone's, high school kids are vaping and whatnot, and you wanna put a stop to that. And you're trying. The thing is, flavor bans don't work. Putting industrial zones, it doesn't work. That does not work. We need shops in the villages and hamlets so you can see the shop right there. Don't hide these locations. You need to be able to see them and go into them and see what the work that they do to getting people, as this cessation is a very beautiful thing. I quit smoking myself. That's why I opened up my location in the town of Islip, and met thousands of people quit smoking, utilizing the products that I sell in my store. We don't sell bongs, we don't sell any of the pipes or anything, hookah, stuff like that. I used to smoke hookah. It's more or less a social thing. It does have nicotine in it, but to me it was very social. It got me off cigarettes, hookah, and after I did that life change of just changing to vapor made me make other better life choices. And after that, I quit drinking, I quit smoking, and I opened up my own store. I live in the American dream, and I want other people to be able to dream. And I want these, places to be able to be in these locations for that. Thank you.
Mr. Shannon, I have a question for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
How long has this store been open?
I've been open, it'll be 4 years, December 15th this year, so 3.5 years, something like that.
Between the cost of rent and insurance and, of course, labor costs, is it very expensive? Is it very difficult to keep the doors open? Is it a struggle for a vape shop to pay the bills and keep the doors open in a downtown?
Absolutely.
Do you find you're in a situation, you're borrowing money just to continue to pay the bills and keep it going? Is that tend to be the case where the stores are teetering on closing?
No. They're sustainable. But right now, there's a lot of anti-vape language around. Towns moving.
Have you seen the town of Oyster Bay's language in the legislation?
Which language in the bill, right? This current bill? I've looked at the language.
Okay. We've gotten assurances from the building commissioner and the town attorney that current businesses with the C of O will be grandfathered in, and those who are making application will be grandfathered in. But if you look at these American principles that you spoke of and we know of, this would reduce competition to those stores currently in the downtowns.
Well, in business, there's something called clustering. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but if you have a couple of small businesses together in an area, it will increase the industry standard of such businesses, such as that's why there's 7-Elevens a half mile from each other.
Thank you.
No problem, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shannon.
Our next speaker will be Kathy Samuels. Hi.
Hi, how are you? My name is Kathy Samuels, and I'm Project Director for Massapequa Takes Action Coalition. MTA has been in existence since 1997. Our mission...
Kathy, would you kindly start off with your address as well for the coalition?
75 Grand Avenue, Massapequa, New York, 11758. Our offices are with our fiscal agent, Yes Community Counseling Center, who has been in the community for over 40 years. We are funded through the New York State Office on Alcoholism and Substance Abuse Services for an opioid prevention grant, as well as the Office of National Drug Control Policy through the Executive Office of the President of the United States and the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. I am here to say thank you. Thank you for thinking about the youth in our communities. We are looking at horrific increases in youth rates for e-cigarettes and vaping products. Thank you for looking to restrict vaping products and hookah lounges to industrial areas. I'm a parent, and I have been in the prevention field since 2004, and the rates of vaping has gone up exponentially when it comes to youth on products that are not even approved through the Food and Drug Administration here in the United States. It is looking to be regulated, yes. Currently, they are looking at a number of issues regarding flavoring pods, which have been removed. But these are small steps forward to try and protect the youth in our country. Since 2004, e-cigarettes have been most commonly used tobacco product among youth. In the United States, youth are 7 times more likely to use e-cigarettes than adults. E-cigarette ads reach nearly 4 in 5 middle and high school students, and youth exposure to these ads has increased in recent years. According to the Monitoring the Future survey, a national ongoing survey providing insight to the behaviors and attitudes and values of America's high school students, between January 2017 and January 2018, the percentage of 12th grade graders who reported vaping nicotine during the past 30 days nearly doubled. It doubled from 11% to 21%, meaning 1 in 5 12th graders in our country has vaped nicotine. The increase was almost as great for 10th grade students, from 8.2% to 16.1%. Make no mistakes, e-cigarettes, vaping products are a danger to our youth's health. E-cigarettes contain nicotine, a highly addictive and harmful chemical that can harm the teen brain, which continues to develop until the age of 25. Health risks to our teens include addiction, behavior risk, exposure to harmful ingredients. These ingredients in e-cigarettes include aerosol, which include ultrafine particles that can be inhaled deep into the lungs, flavorants such as diacetyl, a chemical linked to serious lung disease, as well as volatile organic compounds such as heavy metals such as nickel, tin, and lead. Poison control centers across our country are experiencing nearly 4,000 calls per year from e-cigarettes, and it's increased over time. Defective e-cigarette batteries have caused fires and explosions, some of which have resulted in serious injuries. Specifically, a 2018 National Academy of Medicine report found that there was some evidence e-cigarette use increases the frequency and amount of smoking in the future. We thank you for considering to make a change to the environment by which youth substance use exists. You are changing the environment. This is the kind of change we need to protect the future of our children's health. Please be assured that Massapequa Takes Action Coalition, we are here as your resource. We are here to
But
provide you with
vaping does
information
protect your
as you
children's
navigate
health.
your bill,
They
as well
shouldn't be
as
doing it when they're
navigate
kids,
issues from
but the
constituents in the
future of their
community.
lives,
I'm providing each of
vaping
you with
is saving
information
their
about
lives.
the coalition, as well as information about other resources you can go to read up on the dangers of e-cigarettes. We invite all of you to attend our upcoming town hall meeting, where we will be discussing the rates of vaping as well as other underage drinking and marijuana use rates in the Massapequa schools area. And we will continue to address all youth substance use rates here. Again, we want to thank Supervisor Saladino as well as the entire board for your efforts. No one wants to take anyone's business away, but please think about the health of our children as they navigate adolescence.
We
Thank you.
are thinking about the health of children. We don't want them vaping, but for Christ's sake, this is about health. Come on, lady.
Our next speaker will be Matthew Elliott.
That's what they're always. That's going to be their tool, their weapon all the time is rates. Well, we have the rates right here. We have the rates.
Good evening. Would you kindly
Fuck,
start
like-
off by telling us your full name and address?
Good evening. My name is Matthew Elliott, 22 Forest View Drive, Ronkonkoma, New York. So, I just listened to the last speaker, and there was a lot of misinformation.
Thank
and
you.
I'd love to actually see those studies. I've been a vapor for 5 years. I was a smoker for 15 years previously. I quit when it reached 3 packs a day for myself. It was through vaping that I was able to quit, and I got involved in the industry. I worked for multiple shops. I've worked for shops in Seaford, Lindenhurst, Comac, and I've worked for multiple e-liquid manufacturing companies. The chemicals that were mentioned, it just blows my mind because we've never added any of those chemicals. We've never used any of those chemicals. As far as the diacetyl, most companies don't use diacetyl anymore, and there were even studies shown that the New York State Vapor Association would be happy to provide that even the amount of diacetyl that was in the e-liquid at the time was not causing any issues. I mean, in fact, there's diacetyl in cigarettes as well, and according to the Royal College of Physicians, vaping is 95.5% less harmful than traditional smoking. But what I really want to talk about as well is I'm from Suffolk County, and town of Islip, town of Brookhaven have passed similar language for the zoning of vape shops. Now, I understand keeping out of the hands of the youth, and I agree with that 100%. No youth should be using these products. These products are meant for adults looking to make the transition from smoking to a less harmful option. But with them being secluded to industrial areas, it makes the accessibility for these products a lot more difficult. And another thing I want to mention is, what happens if a shop has to temporarily shut down? They aren't able to keep the lease with the landlord. They would be forced to locate into a light industrial area. Now, if this happens over and over, the industrial areas are going to be filled up, and it's a lot harder for shops to reopen or, again, expand, as someone mentioned earlier. I urge this board to work with the New York State Vapor Association, along with the shop owners of the town of Oyster Bay, to come up with regulations that punish those that sell to underage more. Regulations that require stricter ID verification. Work with the shop owners, work with New York State Vapor Association so we can protect the youth, so we can also protect the adult smokers that are looking to quit and the adult vapors that have quit smoking. Smoking has affected almost everyone in this room, I'm willing to guarantee. We have the opportunity now with this technology to stop death, to stop smoking-related illnesses, to live a healthier life. And people are living the American dream by offering these services to individuals willing to make this transition. I know that it's not going to remove the current shops, but it stops the growth of the industry. And again, with the 7-Elevens, the gas stations, the convenience stores, the bodegas, they're the ones that, if you check the statistics, do sell more underage. And as far as the requirements of mentioning the health issues of vaping, every bottle of e-liquid sold has a warning that says, warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical, as required by the Food and Drug Administration. So larger warning signs, they're not really going to do anything. We have to stop the youth from getting their hands on the products, and we have to stop the bad actors in the industry that sell to the youth. Everyone's going to get their hands on it if they really want to, but we have to make it very abundant that we're going to stop, by any means necessary, the shops that are doing it the wrong way, but keep the good ones. Thank you.
Hear, hear. Hear, hear. Well said, sir. Well said.
Next speaker will be Adam Kielzerski.
No, you're right, Neil. It's 100% true. The vape shops are the ones that are really doing everything in their power to keep the youth out of
Kielczewski,
their shop.
Kielczewski. Good evening, Council. How are we doing today?
Very nice. Would you begin by giving us your address, please?
Absolutely. It is 257 South Walnut Street, Lindenhurst, New York, 11757.
Thank you.
Many of the topics that were heard today prove big points, but I think the main one that we're missing, all-encompassing, is the fact that vapor stores are professionals in the industry. For the professionals of the industry to recommend the proper dosage, to recommend anything that can help someone's life in the long term. Our number one thing that we're looking at currently is preventing any of these professional shops from opening, but not preventing convenience-type stores from being able to sell these products. The biggest problem with this is the fact that these stores do not care. They just want to make the sale. That's our problem. So by preventing vape shops from opening in realistic areas that would promote the growth of a business, it diminishes everything that we should be as Americans, as businessmen, as entrepreneurs, as being able to bring products to the people that they deserve. Now, if you ask me, I would not send my mother to a industrial zone to go buy a vape for herself if she were to be smoking. That seems absurd to me. One, I do not want my mother to be in a zone such as that just for anything that could possibly happen. Would I like her to go onto a main street and be able to buy her products as needed? Absolutely. That's our biggest concern. And actually, the FDA reasons with this. The FDA themselves have actually done a study of taking a look at 660,000 inspections of different tobacco product retail establishments, and out of which 48,900 establishments were actually given letters of warnings. These establishments were all gas stations, convenience stores, and drug stores for selling to minors. Out of all of those, vapor stores were not actually in the study. So where does our problem lie? Is it with the vape shops that are actually trying to help and bring a better community together, or is it the convenience stores that are just trying to make the sale at the end of the day? And with that, I'd like to ask if anybody has any questions.
Yes, Adam, are any of these products available via a delivery service?
That is actually illegal, sir.
So nothing can be obtained, but it can all be obtained by going into any one of stores?
Correct.
Does clustering of these stores help the business model? Is it more convenient for people who are looking for the products?
It does make sense, just in the tune of this. So let's say, for example, if somebody has a specific device and they need specific parts that do go bad after time, and they need to buy from another store, let's say, for example, if they are out of town, let's say, for example, I'm from Lindenhurst, I'm up here in town of Oyster Bay, I need to get a new coil for my device. If I can't go to a shop that I can actually reasonably find, and or if I don't have the information, let's say, for example, my phone on Google, to look up a vape shop that currently has that such product, for me to not have that nicotine is the same thing as a cigarette smoker not having a pack of cigarettes. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people in here that do smoke do know that feeling. I sure did.
And go ahead, Council.
Adam, you're saying that it's not sold via the internet, these products, are they?
They are being sold through the internet?
Through the internet, they
Correct.
are, correct?
Correct.
Delivery, you, like
No, no, no.
FedEx? Well, I
That
don't know.
was Senators. Oh, delivery service. I thought you meant as in a call-in basis, as a personal
maybe that's
delivery
where the-
service. No, they're actually.
That's where the
My
youth is
apologies.
getting the product.
That is a big dilemma. Although the FDA has set out guidelines that each website that sells vaping products has to have a 21-plus identification
coming, man.
system.
I'm telling you, they're gonna
This
crack- they're gonna
system
realize
now
they're gonna crack
includes-
down on
it's
online
called
sales.
HChecker.net, for example, is a big one that does offer the service that each website is required to have. The HChecker requires you to either input your passport, a photo of yourself, and a photo ID to be able to go ahead and make the point of sale.
So there is both the convenience of ordering these online and going into a vape shop, perhaps in a downtown.
So the biggest part of having a shop, a vape shop specifically, having a downtown shop, let's just say in quotations, is the fact of not convenience, but more so of education. The number one thing that we're missing with vapor products is education. What is the correct device to be used for what specific purpose you need it for? Vaping wasn't always just dictated to be just for quitting e-cigarettes. They're used for many different varieties, and I think the industry as a whole looks to see it fit to be able to minister many different types of applications, whether you have diabetes and you want to take your insulin. Who knows, maybe 50 years in the future, that could be a solution, but if we keep shunning the product in general, I don't see the innovation happening.
Just one last any other questions? Go ahead.
I'm going to say, Mr. Adam
It's education,
Kizlowski.
right? You want to be able to
Did I say
come
it
into
right?
that
is
shop
correct.
I don't
and
wanna
learn
murder your
about the
name.
product.
Are
The only
you with the
reason people
association,
still
the
use
Vapor
Vape and
Association?
Juuls
I am
is
not
because
actually.
they're not being educated about
Your
other
knowledge
options.
base-
I think I should be.
Your knowledge base comes from you own a store or
I actually own an e-liquid brand.
an e-liquid brand?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. We are sold nationally, over 35 countries currently, and this being my hometown, it kills me every time I see something like this because of the misinterpretation that people bring along with the vaping products themselves.
Well, what I want to say is, I'll say Adam. What I
Yes.
want to say, Adam, is that having a hearing like this, though, sometimes gives us as
Absolutely.
legislators the opportunity to hear different ideas from people, especially those who are most impacted by a proposal. Obviously, this proposal came from people in the community who are very concerned about the increase in children that are using these e-cigarettes. And so, you're solving one problem with adults, and you're creating another problem with children. So we're trying to strike a balance here. And what I was going to ask you is if this New York State Vapor Association or your groups that you're affiliated with, maybe they have some model legislation that we could even take a look at, that other municipalities have adopted that may be even more successful than what we're trying to do here, or maybe we can adapt it into our bill that we're talking about here today. Maybe you can get that over to us while we keep the record open.
I would absolutely love to do that, to be honest. For what it's worth, I really do feel, I don't know if that, sorry.
You're good.
That's okay. For what it's worth, that's the number one thing. We do want to introduce ourselves to you guys. We don't want to be the guys in the dark. We don't want to be the ones in the alleyways that are forced to be in industrial zones and not being able to speak about what we are, what we have, and what we are projecting to people and what we want to give them. So I would love to get you any sort of literature. We have tons of it available. We actually have groups of over thousands of community members that do own businesses in this nationwide, worldwide for that matter even now. And if we take a look at what happens all over the world in vaping products in general, it's astounding to see the great it does for communities.
And we would also like to extend an invitation to anyone from the Vaping Association to meet with town personnel and bring their concerns up, not just yourself.
Any way that we could do so, I'm sure we'd all be very happy to. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was amazing. Adam Kulowski. You can find him on Facebook. And
Would
tell him how amazing
anyone
that was.
else like to be heard? Yes, please come up.
Good evening. My name is Michael Ciardi, Huntington Bay, New York. And while for the last 40 minutes we've talked about vape, on this proposal, there is a sentence that says, any establishment which offers for sale or consideration cigarettes, e-cigarettes, pipes, vapes, pens, and then it goes on to say other legal marijuana derivatives or like substances. I'd like to know what that definition is.
We'll ask our town attorney to come up.
CIAR.
Would you kindly take a
Jason,
seat
there's
while he
there's
answers
been
your
some
question?
good stuff in here. Some good choice of words. Very good speaking. Very understanding
Sure,
councilman.
Elizabeth Fawnin.
Definitely rewatch this if you get a chance.
Faughnan. Okay, sorry. Supervisor, I think we're keeping in mind the fact that, number one, New York State was debating whether or not to make marijuana legal in the state of New York for purposes other than medical marijuana. So the idea was to bring the legislation in line with what is going on in the industry, what has occurred and what is possibly about to occur or not to occur. So the definition is, that does include,
Would this apply to CBD oil,
yes,
CBD products?
Why?
my understanding
She doesn't
is
have
yes,
a clue.
because CBD is
She doesn't know what she's talking about.
Cannabis
She doesn't know what CBD is.
No, that's
Supervisor.
She doesn't know what
That's fine.
CBD
Let's give
is.
the town attorney our attention, please.
Supervisor, I think it's a fair question that's been raised, and I don't believe that there's a definitive answer. We were talking about, what Ms. Faulkner was addressing was the definitions that have been given by New York State. I think they should be clarified, and I think we can clarify them before a vote is taken.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, that went terribly.
Reverend Ray Mellagrain, 17 Hampton Road, North Massapequa. Part of my ministry at North Shore Assembly of God here in Oyster Bay is counseling people who are addicted to opiates. I found that it takes many hours to get people free from things like crack and crack cocaine. And what has happened is people using, as an example, crack, that are smoking crack, will now turn to a smoking product. They'll go to a vaping business, and they'll be smoking initially tobacco. But in some vaping businesses, not in all, they're offered cannabis oil in addition. Now, I don't claim to know if this is legal or not legal, but they're offered that, and over time, that does not satisfy them as far as a level of a high. So they slowly slip back to the opiate products. So it's just very frustrating for me that we have to start all over again then, and you have somebody driving next to you on the road with your family who's high again on cocaine, which is what I was trying to accomplish in the first place. So I'm not claiming that this is happening in all vaping businesses, but it does exist. Thank you.
What? What just? What?
No.
What? What?
That's everyone on the list.
What was he trying
Okay.
to say?
Please come up, sir.
I think everyone's confused. Was he on crack?
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Can you start off by giving us your name and
Yes.
address for the record?
Justin Slazak, Huntington, New York. Quick question from Mike on the last one. I guess since you guys are presenting marijuana derivatives, whatever that term might be, are you going to now go with places like Bed Bath & Beyond, Marshalls that are currently selling, maybe Duane Reade, that do have that product line? Will that now enter their residential, I guess, circumference, you would say? So now, I guess it's a slippery slope where you're putting yourself in a position where, ironically, the other day, when I got my mail, I saw a CBD pamphlet from Bed Bath & Beyond. How are you going to differentiate all that? How are you going to perform the services you're rendering now, stopping the vendors that are currently either here or Sayville or whatever else? Are you going to prevent those products from being brought to Marshalls, Duane Reade, whatever it might be? How is that going to be stopped? And that's probably more for the town lawyer, so I guess.
The legislation is aimed at businesses that derive a substantial portion of the revenue from these products. So it wouldn't apply to a store that sells them incidentally. It's not a
So you're discriminating against the actual.
It's not about discriminating. Those terms are used quite often in
They're
language.
loosely used, I agree with you, but.
In the actual state legislation and in the town codes. So we start off the process with the state's legislation and the direction we get from the state, and then we add to it. And tonight's hearing is about listening to everything
No,
to
I agree.
ensure that we're going to do this properly, respectfully of the current businesses, respectful of the needs in the community, and take into consideration what everyone has been communicating to us.
I just feel sorry for the fact that the people that did try, I guess, to start these small businesses, and then the bigger corporations get allowances to be able to do those type of lines. So I guess it's, like you said, discrimination is a loose term, but it does come down to that kind of idea, and it does come down to people, I guess, verifying age, which is a very important thing. I don't see a lot of that, and that should be something that should be really put into, into some kind of legislation of some sort. You know, bars have to check you when you go into a bar. Do these people do that for, you know, for that type of situation, which is either the derivatives that nobody has given us a definition for, or that? So thank you for your time.
And thank you for being here, quite frankly, by holding an open hearing and providing everybody a voice to talk to us about the legislation. It's how we work with the town attorney and the team of attorneys that we have to do it right.
Thank you for the education.
Thanks.
And just to be clear, this only applies to this would only apply to new businesses, not retroactive.
But at the same time, there's new businesses getting CBD lines, so you can get your CBD line from, not that Sears is open anymore, but I'm saying is if they wanted to open it up, so how do you verify, how do you differentiate in that type of situation? You really, again, it's a loose term, but it's discriminatory. So what's happening is that you're not giving them the ability to do that. So I don't think it's definitely a slippery slope, but that's my opinion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, would you please step up?
Hi, I think I was too short to be seen before. My name is Cheryl Richter. I'm the Executive Director of the New York State Vapor Association, and we would be more than happy to work with you. We represent the 700 independent mom-and-pop vape shops. There are 2,700 employees and hundreds of thousands of consumers in the state of New York. We actually did work with the governor's office on some regulations that just were signed April 1st in the budget bill for this year, and for example, we advocate for the licensing of all retailers who sell vapor products, stricter fines and penalties. There's now a 3 strikes you're out rule in the entire state of New York. Only arm's length sale after a business loses its license. And like I said, that was all signed into effect in the governor's budget. We're also working on legislation with them for physical ID scanners at the point of sale wherever vapor products are sold, whether or not it's a vape shop or a gas station or a convenience store. Age verification for software for online sales, mandatory education for employees, and marketing restrictions to make child-appealing packaging illegal. However, we believe that regulating vape shops whose sole goal is to help adults quit smoking and who mostly cater to 45-year-olds and older, like my 70-year-old aunt, I don't think I would want her walking through an industrial zone to get her vaping products. The resolution doesn't really do anything at all to stem the youth problem. According to the FDA, most sales to minors happen at the convenience stores and gas stations. This will not curb that. But you're not planning on moving them. The FDA does not have, just to counter what one of the ladies came up here and said, the reason we're not regulated right now by the FDA as an approved FDA product is because the FDA has not given us a pathway to do so yet, and we are also working with the FDA on whatever regulations they're going to come out with. Just so you know, between 2015 and March of this year, there have been 579 compliance checks by the FDA in Oyster Bay Township. There were 37 violations on sales to minors. 8 of them sold them cigars. The rest were combustible cigarettes. 0 e-cigarette sales were fine, and no vape shops. Vape shops in Nassau County are 21 and over establishments, and they do a really good job IDing. And those that don't, the bad players, will soon learn with the 3 strikes they're out rule that they're going to lose their licenses. By unfairly forcing any vape shops to areas of towns where the strips clubs are and whatever, you're sending a signal to the adults that vaping is seedy, dirty, and bad for them. That type of attitude keeps people smoking. By moving the vape shops out of the way, you'll be keeping the stores that sell pod systems that contain the highest concentrations of nicotine, an average of 5 to 6%, in every gas station, convenience store, supermarket, and deli. However, and those are the nicotine levels that create the buzz, the nicotine buzz that the teens like. In a vape shop, the most popular level of nicotine sold is under 0.6%. So you're basically unfairly targeting the good actors, and you're leaving the bad actors to keep on doing what they're doing. Worse, by moving vape shops out of the way and allowing deadly cigarettes to remain on every corner in every town, you would be giving cigarette sales the advantage, and smokers will continue smoking. I know you don't like the word, but we do believe that that is discriminatory. This is the FDA's continuum of harm, which I know is small, but I'm going to email all of this to you. If you see here in this bar chart, this is their continuum of harm, starting with the most harmful to the least harmful, okay? This is what they go by. Cigarettes, obviously, way up here, 100% harmful. Here's no use, here's the patch, here's other oral products, here are nasal sprays, and here are e-cigarettes, right here, okay? So, in conclusion, we are working with the state to enact regulations that would actually prevent youth use from purchasing vapor products, and we'd like to work with you. We ask you to dismiss this bill that discriminates against vape shops and help us strike the necessary balance of keeping e-cigarettes out of the hands of youth while maintaining the availability and affordability to adults who depend on them to keep them from the deadly alternative.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
testimony.
And could you please provide that information to us?
Absolutely, yeah.
There's just one question I had, or a couple, if I may. In your testimony, you spoke to the fact that this would be difficult to get hold of for our moms or for someone who chooses not to go into a neighborhood outside of a downtown or perhaps a well-lit area. And yet we've heard through your testimony and the testimony of others that those products can be ordered on the internet. That you can get them via FedEx or a U.S. mail. You can get them in convenience stores, and quite frankly, the high convenience of pulling up at a gas station and walking back to your car. It would seem as though for all those who would need it, and whether they be kids or family members, it's all too convenient now for young people to get them, and it's as convenient as could be for an older person or anyone who's able to drive.
Well, first of all, you have to understand the difference between what is sold in a typical vape shop and what is sold at a convenience store, okay? A convenience store has a bunch of closed pod systems on their shelves next to the cigarettes. And in many cases, we call it accidental quitting. A smoker will go into a convenience store and say, gee, I've heard about those vape products, maybe I'll try that, okay? But shortly thereafter, they generally find maybe they're not really quitting, maybe they should try one of those things the bigger devices that provide more satisfaction physically, that are customized, and that information, that knowledge, you get at a vape shop. So, you're not getting that when you're going to a convenience store and just saying, let me try that. The other thing that we know, and that why we're, for example, always fighting flavor bans, is because we know that a typical flavor that is sold in a convenience store will probably be tobacco or menthol, okay? It's not until somebody completely disassociates themselves from the taste of tobacco that their trigger relapses end. And we see very successful switching at that point. So by not having the availability of different flavors like you find in a vape shop and finding something that tastes good to you, and you can continue craving the taste and the smell of tobacco. And that's generally what, and as far as the online sales go, that's really disadvantaging people who are just smokers now, because they don't know what to buy. They don't know what to order. They're not going to sit there and order 40 different types of flavors when they can go to a store and a vape shop employee can take them through.
But couldn't they learn online, learn from visiting a vape shop on one occasion?
You can't learn what something tastes like on the internet. is my point. And that's a very big
I,
part of the successful quitting.
I do thank you, and I want to tell you this brings to mind year after year as a member of the State Assembly the bills to ban flavored tobaccos, and I remember hearing a lot of information at that time as well. So we will continue to listen to everyone and remember our families and make it convenient for them, as you're telling us now. It's as convenient as could possibly be for someone who needs that and can't get out of the house. But we're also going to listen to protect the moms and the families and the children who are also making it loud and clear their desires on the issue. And by staying open-minded, we hope to have legislation that deals with the issue in a way that's respectful of all.
Okay, and I certainly hope you think about the ideas that I presented tonight about not only the vape shops requirements, but also at convenience stores in every place that they're sold, and cigarettes too. Thank you.
I have a question before you. I heard you speak about the three strikes rule that was adopted inside the budget, which is why most of us probably have never heard of it yet at this
I
point.
like this guy.
So that's relatively new. Is that effective immediately, or does that take effect?
No, they're licensing us first, so we're going to go through that regulatory. We're working with the Office of the Governor to help them figure out how to license us. And when that does, then there's a 20% tax that goes into effect, a retail tax. And also, at that point, it's a much stricter fines. I think the first fine is a couple of $1,000s. The second fine is more than that. Plus, you could possibly be suspended for 6 months, which of course for a vape shop owner that would be death. And after that, it's a 3-strike, you're out. And like I said, you can't even sell it to your brother, so.
Right, so that's on the regulatory end. What we're discussing here tonight really is all about zoning them into the proper zones and where they should be. So one of the questions, my only question for you is, as an executive of the association, are you opposed to the 1,000-foot rule that is contained in this bill?
I think it depends on where the location is. So in Manhattan, maybe 1,000 feet.
This is just the town of Oyster Bay.
Right, like in a town of.
This within a residential lot.
Well, would you? Number one, would it apply to gas stations and convenience stores that also sell not only vapor products but cigarettes? Because I think that what we like to see is an even playing field. So if it applied to them, no, I don't think we would disagree with that. But if a kid can still go into a convenience store and buy 10 packs of Juul pods for their classmates, then no, we would not. We would fight it that way.
So if the 40% rule goes into effect, I'm actually looking at the commissioner when I say this, if the 40% rule went into effect, that's where the 1,000 feet would apply to them. If they derived more than 40% of their income. So that is how this is being proposed right now.
And in the extreme case of a vape shop within 1,000 feet of a school?
It's probably not common. I would imagine that that's very rare.
But you would oppose the rule if it only applied to vape shops?
I think that would be an unfair rule then, yes. I mean,
She's
if they
not
were not
opposed
allowed
to
to
the
sell
rules, but she's
e-cigarettes
opposed
and
to them
cigarettes
if it doesn't
100,000
apply to the
feet from the
convenience
school, then we
stores
would
and
probably be
gas
for it.
stations.
So is your concern more the competition with the convenience stores or the ability of a vape shop to locate where it wants to be?
I think that our concern is mostly to make sure that teens keep away from these products. And that's why our
So wouldn't having this rule, even if it only applied to vape shops, further that goal?
if the fact wasn't that most teens were getting their products, or purchasing their products. Most teens get their products from family and friends. It's like 74%, okay? Of the sales, the highest majority are the convenience stores, supermarkets, delis, et cetera.
I totally understand you, but wouldn't it further that goal to some extent by making it more difficult for young people to get a hold of these products?
But you're saying that it's easy for them to get them in a vape shop when vape shops are 21 and older establishments and they're ID'd as soon as they come in. I mean, that's not going to solve the problem. If you're trying to solve the problem, there are better ways to do it, is my point.
Okay, we're going to look at every way. I just wanted to know your opinion on that one issue.
That was really weird. It was really weird how he pushed on that.
Is there anyone else who would
That,
like
well,
to be heard
wouldn't
on this
wouldn't at least
particular
zoning
hearing?
the vape shops at least help a little bit with the kids? No. The problem
Being
is the
that there are
convenience
none,
stores.
is there any
she's
correspondence?
just saying, if you impose these rules on the
Correspondence
convenience
from
stores,
Eric
we
Kaplan,
likely
and
won't
that
fight
was
you
read
too
into
much.
the record
Everyone
already,
has
but
to
we will
has
place
to
it in
deal
the
with them.
record.
But if it's only to the vape shops,
we
then
have
no, you're not
affidavits
helping
of
anybody
postings
because
and
everybody's
publications.
getting their underage vape shit from a goddamn
May I
convenience
have a
store.
motion?
So
Supervisor, I'll make a motion
pull
that
your
the
head out of
public
your
hearing
ass,
be closed
councilman.
And the
This
decision
is
be reserved.
you're better off proposing
favor,
this
please
rule
signify by saying
on
aye.
the places
Aye.
that are selling to kids, which
Those
are
opposed,
gas
nay.
stations and
Nay.
convenience stores. Impose
The
these
ayes have
rules
it.
on them,
Thank you
and
for
then
everyone who
you'll
came here
likely
this
have the
evening.
backing of us too.
On that subject. We're going to take a break now, to give our stenographer a break before we begin the next hearing.
5 minutes.
5-minute break.
A short break.
Just to give her a break.
That's just my thoughts there. The problem lies in, Jason says the problem lies in C stores. The rules should be the same across the board, regardless of the revenue percentage gained by vape sales. Yes, that's right. That 40% rule is kind of sneaky. Like, what person came up with that idea and plopped that right in there? You know what I'm saying? Because it just, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. 40%, you could have a convenience store conveniently only be making 39% of their business in vape sales. Like, and if you're selling to underage kids in a fucking convenience store, it's easy to maintain that. Like, it doesn't make sense. 40% is a stupid fucking thing to do. It's forget the percentage of the retail. If you sell vape products, you must apply to these rules. Then you'll have all of us vape shop people not entirely on your side, but pretty damn fucking close. Right? Like, it makes sense. We don't want kids to be accessing these. So we would like to see these rules. And if that means that there are these new rules that apply to both convenience stores and vape shops, I think we'll just kind of deal with it because it's helping. It's helping keep the kids off of these vape products. So we will then deal with these new rules. But if they're just for vape shops, I don't see it. It doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense at all. Doesn't make sense. That's just what I think. I'll be right back. I'm going to play a little tunage here while we're waiting.
Okay.
Here we go, folks.
We ask that you kindly take seats. Those standing in the back, please take a seat. We remind everyone of the exits are on both sides in the front of this room, to the front, and large doors exit in the back as well. And we expect everyone to conduct themselves professionally. We'll now call Resolution 269.
Okay, Supervisor, as I discussed, we are going to call Resolution 269, but we just have two things prior. It has not, we're just going to add it to the calendar, and then we'll do that, okay?
Certainly.
May I have a motion to suspend the rules and remove from the table Resolution number 241, which was tabled on April 16th, 2019. This is just to remove it from the table and add it to the action calendar. On the motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Muscarella, seconded by Councilman McEnone. On the vote, Supervisor.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Councilman McEnone.
Aye.
Councilwoman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Umberto.
Aye.
Councilman Han.
Aye.
And Councilman Labriola.
Aye.
Okay, motion to remove from the table and add resolution number 241 to the regular action calendar passes with 7 ayes. Now, may I have a motion to resuspend the rules and add the following walk-on resolution number 316, which is a resolution relating to granting requests from Eastwood School, Inc. for town assistance in conducting their annual spring fair scheduled to be held on May 18th, 2019. On the motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Muscarella, seconded by Councilman McEnone. On the vote, Supervisor.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Councilman McEnone.
Aye.
Councilwoman Johnson.
Aye.
Okay. Councilman Umberto.
Aye.
Councilman Han.
Aye.
And Councilman Labriola.
Aye.
Motion to resuspend the rules and add walk-on resolution number 316 passes with 7 ayes. Okay, let's put that. Now, may I have a motion to adopt resolutions P 18-19 through resolution number 316, noting that we added resolution 241 and 316. On the motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Muscarella, seconded by Councilman McEnone, and you would like to take resolution number 269 right now.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, going to ask for speakers on this. There are quite a few people who would like to speak. We ask you to keep your comments succinct, stay to the time allowed, and please be respectful of everyone in the room and all parties with your comments. We ask that everyone seated here be respectful of the speakers. Everyone will be allowed an opportunity to speak, and we want an assurance of complete cooperation and respect to those speakers. The first speaker this evening will be Matty Arich from the Building Trades.
Good evening. My name is Matthew Arishich, President of the Building and Construction Trades Council of Nassau and Suffolk Counties. For the record, I submit a letter that I will read here today, representing 60,000 members, both men and women in trades. Dear council members, as President of the Building and Construction Trades Council of Nassau and Suffolk Counties, I'm proud to inform you that I was contacted by Mr. Brown of the Kimco Company, and he professed that the Danzy Group committed to build this Marriott project using 100% affiliates of the building trades from the council. Therefore, the council enthusiastically supports the construction of the Marriott Residence Inn for the entire 29-acre Miller Ridge Inn Jericho Commons property. This hotel will bring revenue to the town of Oyster Bay and provide opportunities to many of your town's residents. I say that because the building trades members are the community. We are the taxpayers in your houses of worship, your schools, and we are in unison with the local contractor to keep the town of Oyster Bay middle class strong.
I think it's
Since
over,
these hotel
folks.
guests will be primarily attendees of events at the Miller Ridge Inn.
I'm pretty sure that's it. I'm pretty sure that they're onto the hotel signs that we saw there. But yeah, that was good. That was good. That was good. That was good. It was good. It was good. Okay, let's. I'm gonna take a little break. I'm gonna get out of here. But thanks for tuning in, guys. And remember, always keep your ears listening and watching and learning. I'll be back in a little bit here. I gotta take a break. I've been going live for way too long. So we will see you in a little bit. Until then.
West Coast Clouds and TBV Labs is proud to present Dead Man's Hand Elixirs Whiskey Barrel Aged E-Liquid. These elixirs are aged for 2 months in white French oak whiskey barrels. Dead Man's Hand Elixirs are triple filtered, then microfiltered for guaranteed purity. Choose from 4 delicious dessert-inspired flavors, using a unique and specialized whiskey barrel aging process delivering deep, rich, sophisticated, and complex flavors. Dead Man's Hand Elixirs are soaked in the finest small batch bourbon. Now packaged in Canada at TBV Labs and distributed by West Coast Clouds. Dead Man's Hand Elixirs. Whiskey aged, bourbon soaked e-liquid.